Hey guys, today I am doing my February wrap up. So I feel like I put up a lot of reading vlogs in the month of February, and yeah, I just felt like I was reading a lot, which I was happy about. A lot of shorter books, to be honest, in terms of like page length, page count, that sort of thing, but I still had a great time for the majority of it. My page tracker and like my stats and all that, I have changed. I'll probably show a little bit more when I do, well, I'm hoping to do just a flip through of the last couple of months in terms of my stats and stuff for my reading journal and things like that. But I have changed it just so it's a bit more pleasing to the eye, and yeah, I don't know. So let's have a little look how many of what I read. So I tally now fantasy, sci-fi, and then I bundle together non-fiction, memoir, poetry and literary. Then I have historical fiction, contemporary, classic and mystery thriller are bundled together. I have like an audience tracker as well, which is YA, adult and children and middle grade, and then I sort of have it on like this little wheel. Oh, I haven't even written how many I've read this month. Yeah, I'm kind of just coming in a spare moment of the day, so I haven't got all my facts and figures down properly. So I think I read 11 books this month, which I'm very happy with. Let's see. 2 of them come under fantasy, 1 comes under sci-fi, 2 comes under like non-fiction, memoir, poetry / literary, 5 comes under contemporary, and then in terms of the audience tracker, 5 comes under children middle grade, 2 comes under adult, and 3 comes under YA. In terms of the format of the books that I've read, 3 were library books, 2 were NetGalley, 6 were physical, 1 was a backlist book, so 2 years and older, 3 were new releases from 2020 onwards, and 8 were recently hauled. So, you know, my numbers are skewed because I've obviously included some in other things, like it could be an old book but I recently hauled, do you know what I mean? So let's actually get on to the books and the reviews, which I'm hoping is going to be shorter this time around because I've done so many reading vlogs and included them in other videos, so let's kind of whiz through those. Okay, so the first 2 books that I have to physically show you were part of a reading vlog. I was doing a vlog where I was reading a lot of blue books, which were blue in content, blue in cover design, had blue in the name, and they were all by black authors, which I guess was very fitting because I believe in America February is Black History Month, so good timing, I guess. And those 2 books I'll quickly show you were The Deep by Rivers Solomon and The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. So just to whiz through these, because again I've already spoken about those in their dedicated video, but I gave The Deep 4 out of 5 stars. This was published in 2019. It is a fantasy adult published by Hodder and Stoughton, and The Bluest Eye I gave 4 out of 5 stars as well. I believe this originally came out in the 1970s. It's like literary adult fiction published by Vintage in this lovely edition. And yeah, I really enjoyed both of these for different reasons, but also just the theme of black identity and that as a topic of conversation were both quite apparent in these, so yeah, I enjoyed those. And as I mentioned, I will link those vlogs if you're interested in more in-depth details. I think if I talk about spoilers, which I think I talk a little bit in this, I let you know before I talk about them, so you can skip ahead if you want to, but for the most part it's like a spoiler-free vlog. So moving on to something else, I read another of the classics. So one of my challenges that I wanted to do for myself this year was read a few more classics, and I have about 8 that I wanted to select from, and this was one of them, the one that I completed. I think this is the 3rd one that I have read out of that list that I talked about, which I'll link in the cards if you want to see. And this is Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes. I've tabbed it for various reasons. There's a few like beautifully written parts and a few like kind of eerie, creepy descriptions and stuff. So yeah, this one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. It came out in 1962, so it's a bit of classic fantasy, and I think it's aimed at YA. It's published by Golan's, which is an imprint of Orion. And yeah, so this one we're following 2 young boys called what are their names? I cannot remember. I think it's Will and I can't remember the other boy's name. I read this like earlier on in the month, but they're friends. They are basically like almost polar opposite in a lot of ways, but they've just been lifelong childhood friends for years, and they're just about coming into teenagehood. There's this line that I always say kind of makes me uncomfortable, and I don't know why, but it was like, and as two boys trembling on the brink of manhood. Like, it just, I don't know, the way the wording is just sounds a bit weird. So yeah, they basically get into this adventure, which is quite sinister, when a like a carnival comes to town. It's called Cougar and Dark's Pandemonium Shadow Show, and a lot of horrifying stuff happens, really creepy, eerie, a lot of that. So it's almost like a horror aspect as well, I would say, and kind of got mystery elements too. I thought that the writing was very lyrical. I feel like some passages really took my breath away. Let me see if I can find a particularly beautiful passage. So this is a section about 3 AM, which sounds really weird. It's beautifully written, especially the two point of views of Will and his dad, which is why I've tabbed it. I've actually written on the tabs this time around, which I haven't done, and I still am very fresh and new into tabbing, so yeah. So basically this is the section that I'll read. 3 in the morning, thought Charles Holloway, seated on the edge of his bed. Why did the train come at that hour? For he thought it's a special hour. Women never wake then, do they? They sleep the sleep of babes and children, but men in middle age, they know that hour well. Oh God, midnight's not bad. You wake up and go back to sleep. 1 or 2's not bad, you toss but sleep again. 5 or 6 in the morning, there's hope, for dawn's just under the horizon. But 3, now Christ, 3 AM. Doctors say the body's at low tide then. The soul is out, the blood moves slow. You're the nearest to dead you'll ever be, save dying. Sleep is a patch of death, but 3 in the morn, full wide-eyed staring, is living death. You dream with your eyes open. God, if you had the strength to rouse up, you'd slaughter your heart dreams with buckshot. But no, you lie, pinned to a deep well bottom that's burned dry. The moon rolls by to look at you down there with its idiot fate. It's a long way back to sunset, a far way to dawn. So you summon all the fool things of your life, the stupid lovely things done with people known so very well, who are now so very dead. And wasn't it true? Had you read it somewhere? More people in hospitals die at 3 AM than at any other time. Yeah, it's just airy, beautifully written. A lot of interesting perspectives and some string of words that just work together really nicely. There were some excellent themes as well. One in particular that I really enjoyed reading about and kind of pondering on was the theme of growing up too fast, as well as growing apart, which was interesting to kind of see. Not overly discussed, but there was almost like implications within, and the way characters would interact with each other and stuff like that. I felt honestly fully immersed in the plot and all the happenings that was going on, but I will say sometimes the writing did become a little bit over the top and confusing on a lot of occasions, to be honest. So yeah, it kind of got lost in its attempt to be lyrical. Sometimes it became a bit preposterous, but overall I really did like this one. Then I read another book which was also featured in my Reading Blue books reading vlog, so I won't talk too much about that one, but that was All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. I got this one through NetGalley, so thank you very much to them. As usual, all my pins are my own. This one came out on the 28th of April 2020, I think in America, but in the UK it comes out on the 4th of March of 2021. It's YA, LGBTIQA+, and memoir, and over in the UK it's published by Penguin, Random House, Children's UK, and I really enjoyed this one. If you want more thoughts about my feelings and some of the conversations it made me discuss within myself and just generally, check out that vlog. Next up, a lot of these books are very Jacqueline Wilson heavy. I took part in the Wilson-thon, which was hosted by a few different booktubers and stuff. I think I got the details of the channel that I first saw it announced on in the description of the video, because I did do a reading vlog of the experience, and it couldn't have come at a better time because I've been craving to reread and just read in general some more Jacqueline Wilson ever since a few years ago when I picked up My Sister Jodie to kind of reread and see what I thought about it as an older person coming back to it, and yeah, it came at a really good time. So again, I'll just blast through some of the details for the books that I picked up, but if you want any further information, feel free to check out the reading vlog. So I read Dustbin Baby, which was obviously by Jacqueline Wilson. This was a reread for me. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, and it originally came out in 2001. It is a middle grade contemporary published by Corgi. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I remembered pretty much nothing about it, but as I was reading, like I remembered key events, so to speak, but as I was reading it, more things were coming into my mind, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that storyline and all that. So yeah, there's that one. Next up, I read Sleepovers, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. Again, this was published in 2001 by Young Corgi. Is it Corgi or Corgi? I never know how to pronounce it. Again, it's like middle grade contemporary. This was another fun one, very, very short story, but yeah, enjoyable. Sort of stepping away from that now and talking about a buddy read that I had with a friend. Me and my friend over at Hills of Books, she's called Deborah on Instagram, read Seven Devils, and this was actually another NetGalley release that I had. I had it through NetGalley e-copy, and this is by Laura Lamb and Elizabeth May, and I actually gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Its release date was the 4th of August of 2020, and it's like, I think it's YA, but it's definitely sci-fi, and it's published again by Golance, which is an imprint of Orion Books. So this one is almost like an intergalactic space kind of warring story. We're following a pretty much all-female cast character crew on this spaceship. A lot of epic stuff happening. We learn kind of early on that Earth years and years ago have already basically populated a lot of the galaxy, a lot of planets around, and we learn kind of how corrupt the system is at the minute with like the main like the ruling planet. We also get the point of view of a rebellion type side of things, and yeah, so we follow a lot of different characters from many different walks of life, and some of them do come together on this crew to basically overthrow everything they don't believe in, to be honest. So it's like a pretty epic story. I definitely enjoyed the banter that we had within our all-female cast. Like, you could feel the simmering hatred a lot of them had for each other, and then it was nice to see some characters sort of soften to each other as the story progressed, and people became more vulnerable and opened up about themselves and like their past and stuff like that, and kind of their hopes and dreams for the future. I felt like that was really cool because you could see a lot of friendships beginning to build, which is nice. I was really thrilled by the action-packed, high-stakes vibe. Like, if anything, that was definitely riveting and kind of kept me going throughout the story, because it was always like, oh, just another chapter, because you'd already read such a... You just felt like everything was so tightly coiled and you couldn't not continue, if you know what I mean. However, I will say that it was too fast-paced for me. I just feel like because of this and the excitement of it all, that it was just this lack, or yeah, there was just not enough world building. I feel like we needed more focus on the politics, the races, and this concept of one, also the Oracle. Like, there wasn't enough. It was almost like under the assumption that you already knew it, but obviously this is a new world to all of us as readers, and I didn't know, so I just felt like we needed to slow down a little bit more and get a bit of a history lesson, like a proper in-depth history of the worlds around. Like, yeah, it was just very heady and almost kind of dizzying. Like, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it being fast-paced, but I felt like if I blinked I'd miss a lot of stuff, do you know what I mean? So there's that. Going back to the Wilsathon books that I picked up now, I read one, well, I got a few from the library. I tried my library's ebook service, which was really good, and yeah, one of the books that I read from there is the Worry website, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars, and this came out on the 27th of August 2002, published by Belinda Audio. This is a complete and unabridged version, and yeah, it's middle grade and contemporary, of course. So this one was basically about a classroom of kids, and instead of having like circle time where it's kind of awkward and they have to talk about things that are bothering them and not a lot of them participate because it's uncomfortable and they don't really want to, their teacher has set up a website for them to talk about things that are bothering them anonymously, and the class can contribute to, like, they can message each other on there and contribute to the conversation and in ways of support and ideas to help, or just to make everyone feel normal, I guess, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, I loved the concept of the kids kind of airing their worries in a comfortable way. I really enjoyed how relatable these young characters could be for a lot of children, especially with like the hard-hitting subjects and concerns that they have. Second to last story was absolutely heartbreaking. Basically have that this winning entry. I think Jacqueline Wilson hosted a whoever wins with the best story or whatever can be in part of the book, and that story was so heartbreaking. And yeah, I'm just going to stop there because I realised I am giving you too much information. You should go and check out the Wilsathon reading vlog that I have done. Moving on, I picked up also from my ebook service The Cat Mummy, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. Both this and the Worry website I hadn't read before, so they were new to me, but this one came out on the 5th of March 2001 by Penguins at Random House Children's UK. I forgot to say, the Worry website I listened to as a audiobook, and the rest of the ones that I borrowed from the library I read as ebooks. So just a little correction there. Yeah, this one was about a little girl who is basically understanding death for the first time. Her mother passed away in labour, and so she's never met her, and then she basically learns about death through the passing of her cat. And yeah, she's also learning about the ancient Egyptians at school, and she decides to take that on board in terms of going through her own grief and, you know, getting through it. And it might not be the best way, but it opens up a conversation that her family don't really feel. So yeah, it was really interesting. I definitely enjoyed it. It was another very short book. Then I also read Glub Slime by, of course, Jacqueline Wilson, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This one came out in 1988, so it's actually one of her oldest books. So much so that Nick Sharratt, her usual illustrator, didn't illustrate the book or the inside stuff, and I believe later on in years, so that it can match her cover, he did the front cover illustration so that it can match the other books. And I'm pretty sure I remembered when that happened, because I was like, oh, it's a new book, and it was like I didn't pick it up because I think at that point I was just coming out of reading Jacqueline Wilson. And yeah, that's my little story. This one was, it says RHCD Digital 2008. My Ed Yearling. Yeah, it was a weird kind of publication thing, I don't know. That's what the ebook was under anyway. But yeah, that was a really good one. It's about a young girl who finds a magical toad who was the familiar for a witch called Rebecca, and then this young girl's called Rebecca, and he's like basically adopts her as his new witch, I guess, although she's not a witch at all. And yeah, they just get up to mischief and have a bit of a companionship. She's a very lonely child, and her friend, who she considers her best friend, is being quite mean to her, siding with this girl that is her other friend, and it's just, yeah, it's not a nice situation. So she kind of gets revenge and then regret with this toad, and it was a very charming story. You can tell it was written a while ago though. You can tell it's older than her more current stuff, I think. And then a last book that I read during February was Love, Frankie, and this is one of Jacqueline Wilson's newer releases. Great, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It came out in 2020, and it's YA, contemporary, and LGBT plus. I think this is her first proper one, because I think recently Jacqueline Wilson came out. Yeah, it was really enjoyable. This was published by Doubleday. It's about a young girl called Frankie who believes she's fallen in love with her arch nemesis, I guess you could say, and she's just going through the throes of that, of growing up, adolescence, trying to find out who you are, your sexuality. She's also got some things going on at home. Her father doesn't live with them anymore, her mum's not very well, and yeah, she's got 2 sisters who she bickers with, and all this sort of stuff. It's just kind of like a real everyday story, but there's something for a lot of people to find themselves in, I would think, and I think it was very well done. So yeah, I've got more in-depth thoughts, again, as I say, in that video, because there are some things that I was a little bit like unsure of, but yeah, check that out if you're interested. And I'd say my favourite book of the month, I actually really want to start drawing the book illustration, so I've done like a really, I'm not even going to show you because this is a hideous picture that I've done. Just a quick sketch to remind myself that I want to try and do a nice artistic page of my favourite book in the future. But my favourite book was All Boys Aren't Blue. I really did enjoy that one, and as I say, you can see my more in-depth thoughts in that reading vlog that I've already done. So yes, thank you so very much for watching this video. Let me know if you've read any of these books, and maybe what your favourite or least favourite book of the month was, and I shall speak to you in another video soon. Bye.